Imagine yourself in a situation where there is no electricity for more than 12 to 13 hours a day, where hospitals are not able to treat patients as there is no money to buy medicine, where the educational institutes are not conducting the examinations due to lack of paper availability, and newspapers are also reducing their print due to the shortage of paper and ink. Along with these, the prices of essential items like rice and sugar is nearly rupees 300 per kg and is supposed to touch rupees 500 soon. This is the situation of Sri Lanka and its worst economic crisis ever. How did Sri Lanka land in this scary situation? What are the reasons for such worst economic crisis? Let's understand in detail. So the first reason for such crisis is the historical background. If you remember, Sri Lanka was in the civil war for years, because of which more money is spent on defense and less on the national interest. This civil war ended in 2009, but the train of development was missed by Sri Lanka and it was already in a huge debt. And the second reason is decline in Forex reserves. Since 2010, Sri Lanka's foreign debt more than doubled between 2010 and 2020, while the foreign debt was about 94% of the GDP in 2019, and it rose to 119% of its GDP in 2021. In order to ease these debts, the government started using the Forex reserves for the imports of essential goods, and thus reducing its reserves to $1.93 billion in March and approximately $8.6 billion due to the payments in this year. And the another reason is China's debt trap diplomacy. China is to blame because of its debt trap diplomacy, where they invested in some of the infrastructure projects which might not give the positive result, but to make the receiver country in trap of debt from China. For example, Hambantota Port, which was an ambitious project of Sri Lanka, was rejected both by US and India because of its inability to recover the investment. At last, China stepped in to invest it. And the port, unable to recover the money, led to transfer of ownership with 70% of its stake to a Chinese company, and thereby a lease for about 99 years, thereby making it a strategic point with China's String of Pearls initiative. Another reason is the decline of tourism sector. Sri Lanka's tourism sector is the third largest source of Sri Lanka's national income. It contributed to about almost 12 to 13% of its national revenue. In 2019 alone, 2.3 millions of foreign tourists came to Sri Lanka. But then something grave happened. The Easter bombings of Sri Lanka, where more than 60 plus of the foreigners died in the attack in Sri Lanka. And along with that, the COVID-19 also played its part in the decline of its tourism revenue. At last, ineffective economic policies. In 2019, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa government reduced the taxes from 15% to 8%. The idea was that if the tax is reduced, then the spending of the people would increase and it would bring more revenue. But then hit the COVID-19 pandemic. All plans got ruined and the country went back into economic turmoil. Along with this, in 2021, Rajapaksa government bought a new farming law, which says that the country will now be 100% organic and it won't use any chemical fertilizers. This was a bad move. Sri Lanka was self-sufficient in rice and it was the second largest producer of tea. But because of these new law, the farm productivity came down and they had to import rice from other countries now. So now, let's understand why this crisis is important from the examination point of view. Sri Lanka is one of the most important nations for India's external affairs, as Sri Lanka is located in a very strategic point where it connects west and the east. Along with this, the country is surrounded by Indian Ocean, which provides a prime trade route for the entire world. Sri Lanka is also part of SAARC nations, and it is also the prime focus for India's neighborhood first policy. So, there might be a probable question from Sri Lanka in the coming UPSC means. Along with this, a mapping question from Sri Lanka can also be expected in the UPSC prelims. Where is the Hambantota Port located? And which city is in a straight line with Colombo in India? Now, let's understand what India is doing to overcome this crisis, or how India is helping its friend Sri Lanka in this economic crisis. India has been supporting Sri Lanka from time and time again, whether it may be a civil war situation or now in this economic crisis. India has extended a credit line of $500 million to Sri Lanka for its fuel expenses. And now it has also extended a $1 billion credit line to Sri Lanka for its essential goods and other requirements. The Tamil Nadu government has also spoken to the central government, offering to ship the essential commodities like rice and life-saving drugs immediately. Sri Lanka have also asked for a $2.5 billion credit line deal with China to overcome this crisis, and have also asked help from World Bank and IMF. So, in this present moment, India's neighborhood is a troubled one, as events in Sri Lanka and also in Pakistan show these troubles can flare into more instability for the region overnight. It is important that the government's neighborhood first policy be bolstered and ensure that being stakeholders in each other's success becomes the mantra for more prosperous and stable subcontinent. So I hope the video is useful. Please do like, share and comment on the video. Thank you very much.